G'day there, Signets and Swanlings. 2012 Premiership player Nick Smith here. It's my pleasure, as always, to introduce a bevy of bloods, a fan podcast of the Sydney Swans Football Club, brought to you by Noddy and Stevo, a pair of red and white tragics. So pop on the kettle and settle in as the boys had an in-depth chat about the Swans' last game, the Swans' next game, and a little bit about footy too. This is Nick Smith signing off until next week's episode. But in the meantime, remember, be good to your bloods and they'll be good to you.
Welcome back to A Bevy of Bloods. I'm your host, Noddy, and today I'm joined once again by Chriso. How you going, mate?
Yeah, good, Noddy. Great to be here again, mate.
Good stuff. In this episode number 34, we're going to be reviewing the Swannies round 5 game. So fluff up your tail feathers and settle in for a potentially biased yarn about all things to do with our beloved Bloods. Last Friday evening, our Sydney Swans defeated the West Coast Eagles by 63 points with a final score of 18-13, 121 to 9-4-58. Okay, mate, first impressions. What do you think of that?
Yeah, really fun game to watch. Strong game across the entire park. Look, West Coast were missing some of their key players. Nick Nat and McGovern, two of the pretty much the best players in their position, arguably, across the last year and consistently over the last few years. So a lot of the pundits were basically saying, this wasn't really their full-fledged team, but you got to remember we were also missing Kennedy, Buddy, and Papley on our side as well as Wicks and a couple of other key players like Fox and whatnot. So, yeah, I think we came out of it really, really nicely. We'll go through some of the stats about the way West Coast played and how we kind of came to. But generally, coming out of defense on our side was much tidier, looking really, really good. I'm finding that over the last couple of weeks, you find our mids kind of rolling into the halfback. The small forwards are kind of rolling into the position of a natural winger. And then the wingers are kind of trying to find that inside, like just that outside ball coming up the middle. And it's just looking like a really good system where we're being able to give ourselves a bit of support coming out of the defense, which is nice and something that I've kind of put up and complained about for the entire season, to be honest. And it's just looking to come together nicely now. And yeah, look, the way that style goes, it looks like we've got a really good style of football. We've got a lot of running, a lot of hard work from our team, a lot of positions, a lot of opportunity for us to get intercepts and to keep the pressure on them no matter where they are in the park. So yeah, very happy with it. How did you think?
Yeah, mate, stoked. We went away for Easter and we were down south inland, not far from Canberra. And we had zero reception. Me and a mate had to do a run into town. The nearest town was about an hour and 20 minutes away because one of the air mattresses had popped, and got a flurry of reception and checked the scores. And then that's when I saw the game and the result, and I was stoked. Yeah, we obviously blew them off the park in the first half. Second half was a bit more of a contest from the Eagles. But, when the game was in the balance and the Swans had to step up, they did. They iced the game in the fourth. So that was very pleasing to see. Obviously, a lot's been made of the Eagles' performance, the worst game since the dawn of time. Or, what was the stat? It was like longest time to score any points this century. So it took them 47 minutes to score any points. So that was, horrible. When you think about it, it was 56-0. With 8 minutes and 20 seconds left in the second quarter. And then they finally kicked their first points, their first goal going to Liam Ryan with a dubious free kick, I believe. But, look, Ladham's got that other one, that high shot on Yo or Shuey, whoever it was, swings and roundabouts. But look, for me, mate, there was just too many. On surface level, it seemed like we had too many behinds. But going through it again, there were 13 behinds. 2 of them were rush behinds. So from the true 11 behinds, I believe 5 were gettable. I won't list out who they are. I think most Swans fans will know. And 1 definitely should have been reviewed, and that was the Parker kick. Look, I'm gonna say it, mate. Like if this was the Bulldogs, they would have spent 10 minutes on that reviewing it. Okay,
Yeah,
it's the Swans in Perth. Yep, touched. Play on. It's like, what? Okay, No worries. But look, we scored 18-10 against West Coast and Geelong last year, beating them by 92, scoring a similar level again this time, 18-13, right? But this time, obviously, the Eagles kicked a few more goals. It was a shocking effort from them last year as well. So all of a sudden, we have this history of being these fierce rivals with close games, much like Hawthorn. But yeah, in the past couple of years, we've come out on top and in a big way, and not complaining at all, mate. Pretty stoked. And this is another one of those ones. So yeah, happy, mate. Happy all round. Mate, what were your key takeaways?
Yeah, a couple of stats that really show themselves. Over 40 kicks differential our way, 30 handballs. We really controlled the game very, very well. We were just talking about it just before we started here, and I'm going to steal one of your stats. There's the top 15 players in the game.
That was my favorite one. I can't
it.
believe you're saying you're stealing that one. That is actually that was my key point tonight. And you're going to go and nab it. Unbelievable.
It makes sense in my point. So otherwise you gotta hide it from me. You gotta write it down on a piece of paper. Don't put it on the board here. Otherwise,
oh my goodness, I can't believe
anyway, but plus 40 kicks, handballs. We're controlling the game really well. I guess this stat just basically proves my point. It's top 15 players of the Swans were all highest in score involvements, and the top 16 players in the game for pressure acts were all Eagles. So as you were mentioning before, we were controlling the game really, really well from the first stats. But the Eagles were also putting a lot of pressure on our guys. They weren't getting free. It wasn't a training match necessarily for them. The Eagles were up and about it for the most part, and our team just seemed to find everyone and get those nice kicks away. I think one of the biggest things that I kind of noticed from this game over the other ones that we've talked about, some of the failures that we've had in skills, is that although we did have a few skill errors here and there and taken on the game at times when we got tackled and we didn't really have anything there to go with, we were nailing those kicks. Gordon, which we'll talk about in a second, was just lacing these kicks out to people. The team was handballing it in front of the players, hitting the players on the chest, putting the ball in places that would be dangerous, and just allow for the whole game just to progress forward really nicely, right? So that was pretty cool. One thing that I really take away from this one, though, would be Logan McDonald, the jumbo jet, as Jules likes to call him.
At what point do we call him Wolverine? Is it like when he grows a beard in his second or third season?
Why Logan? Wolverine?
Logan.
Oh, Logan, right.
Yeah.
Well, apparently his nickname is Bruce Almighty for some reason. I haven't looked into as to why, but
I like it.
Yeah. So anyway,
I'm happy with Jumbo Jet. Go, Jules.
the Jumbo Jet. Look, he's not. Look, those goals that he had around, and he put some good pressure, and he was amongst it all. I think 5 scoring involvements, only 2 shots on goal. So he's around, but he's not really around. He's not putting himself in a position as much as we would like for him to get more of the ball. But I guess we're not really needing too much of him at the tender age of, what is he, 19, I think. So look, that's just something I see. So I'd like for him to kind of make more of his game, understand what that looks like. And he was effectively competing with Reid and McLean in the air. Reid and McLean got in each other's ways more times than I'd like to mention on this podcast. So that's something that we really need to work out. To one guy who's been doing this for a long time in Reid, and McLean, who's probably the most competitive guy on the field all the time. So he's not going to let up. So and you're looking at Logan's just kind of running on the side there to try to get some scraps and whatnot that ultimately Papley's going to steal from him. So I'd like to see where his game ends up. That's all I'm saying. I've got very high raps in him. We all do. So I'm hoping that he can kind of change it up a little bit on his side. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think you see the talent is there. We can touch on him in the section later on. I'll get on to. I guess I have to find a new key takeaway here. I tell you what, we're going to be talking about descent later on. I'll tell you what, mate, I am waving my arms around like an idiot right now. So penalise me 50 meters. Here I go. Listen, so let's look at some of these stats. The biggest one that stood out, obviously, I think, is the inside 50s. We were plus 36. That's a phenomenal gap. But if you think about the conversion rate, and I know that different, the AFL looks at it slightly differently as some other, stats groups. But if we had 18 goals from 65 inside 50s. I think it's only like 27%, but that's not a bad strike rate. I think last year in our run home to the finals, we were getting pretty close to about 30%, and that was one of the higher figures. So in and around 30% is pretty decent. For reference, the Eagles actually had 31%. So they had limited opportunities, but were converting more of those inside 50s into goals. But nevertheless, we had plus 12 stoppage clearances, plus 37 contested possessions. That's a really big one. Plus 45 uncontested possessions. I think there was a bit of junk time there in the first half. The Eagles reined it in the second, but it's still a telling gap. Plus 9 marks inside 50, plus 6 contested marks. This is what I think is interesting. They had 6 more tackles than us for the whole game. And I think that they were, they had a lot of pressure on us, as you've said. The commentators kept saying 200 on the pressure meter. God knows how it's calculated, but there was plenty of it from the Eagles. But even still, we're able to score. But on the flip side, we had an overwhelming majority of tackles inside 50. We had 17 tackles inside 50 compared to their 4. So it just goes to show that we also have pressure as well. We're trapping it. We're intercepting it. We're scoring. I think we scored 85 points from intercept possessions, and that's very similar to last year when we flogged them in Geelong. It was 73 points in the same method. So we're getting a bit of consistency there in our method of scoring. Otherwise, great depth building. You've shouted all the players you've shouted out. We've got a lot of senior players out. Buddy, Papley, Hickey, Kennedy as the medi-sub. We'll talk about that later on. But the young mids and forwards getting a chance to rise on the big stage in a hostile environment, and they did. So that was really I think that was good for our character and our ongoing learning. We're 4 wins, 1 loss. We sit in equal second with Fremantle, Brisbane Lions, St Kilda and Carlton, but we're 5th on percentage. I know a lot of Swans fans were complaining that we, should have kicked on and pushed the percentage. But look, if we'd gotten the above mentioned gettable goals, we would probably still only be in 3rd, marginally ahead of Brisbane Lions, and still behind the Dockers, who are flogging it this year. But look, we're killing it in tackles. We're killing it in scoring. We've got the 3rd best attack after the Lions and St Kilda, and we've got the 4th best defence after Melbourne, Freo, and Lions. So we're running quite well. We're sitting pretty.
I did hear one Swans fan say that we're effectively allergic to for and against, which has been a consistent thing as far as I can remember, as far back as I can think.
I don't know, man. I think I would rather the win. Like, obviously percentage sets, and it did last year and has probably in a couple of last years, sets apart the top 4 from the bottom half of the top 8. I get that, and that it's so critical when you want to get the 2 home finals, but it's more important to probably win and make the 8, and then you can get a bit detailed and nitty gritty there, I think. But yeah, look, I mean, they're a professional outfit. The Eagles are always going to come back. We flogged them in the first half. It should have been more. It should have been like 100-0 basically. But we basically kept the gap that we had in the first half, even when the Eagles threw the sink at us.
So I think I saw what's his name? Swamp Thing. What's his name? The guy does the most amazing stats on Twitter. I'll figure out his name in a second. But I think someone saw that the longest time they'd gone without scoring in the last X amount of years was something 60 points before the other team scored one. And so had Ryan not flared his arms and in front of Rampier and got that free kick to score, I wonder whether we would have been pretty close, because they didn't look like they had it. They were getting some decent inside 50s, but we were just putting numbers around the ball in defense and just getting it out there real tidy. So I would have liked to have seen a whole quarter gone without any scoring, but
or a half even. Like, because look, their second goal was Josh Kennedy. It was pretty skillful on the left. But look, Darling, I mean, he kind of legged McCartan there, but I've got one eye right now. So look, the point is they're always going to come back. They're a professional outfit. They're going to throw. They're going to have a crack. And the really pleasing thing I thought was that, even though we lost that 3rd quarter, just on the result itself, and they had another really good crack in the 4th, we actually bounced back and then won that 4th. So we won the 1st, 2nd, and 4th quarters, but we just absolutely smashed them in the 1st and 2nd. And that's the main difference. But look, after they beat the Pies last week, I tipped the Eagles, mate. I actually tipped the Eagles. I felt dirty. I felt dirty about it.
You should.
But well, come on, mate. I just wasn't as bullish as the rest of the group.
You got to put your heart away, I guess, when they're tipping. So, but
Yeah.
look, they've got good players across the field. Look at all the names they've got. Like they do have excellent forwards, excellent backs, mids. They've got a tidy outfit. They just don't have. They've got A-grade players, but don't have enough quality B-side players. I guess they don't have enough quality and they don't have depth. So it's just one of those out. I don't know what they're expected to do over the next 5 years.
Well, I mean, so like I think a big part of it is this delayed coronavirus experience. Like it's basically just hitting. I think they may have peaked, but they've been smashed by the health and safety protocols. Not to mention other actual injuries, but because of the past 2 years, there's pretty much been a wall up between Australia and Westralia. It's pretty much just hitting them now. So look, it gives all the waffle guys a really good chance to come through, and there's a lot of other guys who've not had opportunities at other clubs like Naish, the ex-Richmond guy. He's playing really well for them. So when there's always opportunity there. But look, I don't really care. I'm glad we smashed them. Yeah, it could have been a bit more. Probably should have been a bit more. But look, we got the W, and I think that's what counts.
Okay, quick, little one. I know we're a little bit off topic here, but while we're talking about it, health and safety protocols, just say, is there a percentage of players that you think goes into quarantine before they can call the game off? Like, do we say 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, half the team? Like, how many numbers does it take before Gill goes, all right, fine, we're going to postpone a game?
I think they've mitigated the integrity piece there by allowing every club to have a pre-nominated list of 20 players in that next league down. Yep. And they're the ones that they can actually just pick on if they need to, like pull up into the seniors without the otherwise pretty stringent contractual and player association constraints. So I think that's what they've done in order to keep it going. And look, let's think about it. It's overwhelmingly just Western Australia at the moment. But I mean, look at the Dockers. They're flying. So, it does go to depth. It goes to confidence. Whatever, mate. It's gonna sort itself out. They'll come good. I don't know. Excuse me. I don't know if they've got I don't know if they'll make the 8, but I think they'll push it by the end of the year. They're always pretty thereabouts, so we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, fair enough.
Mate, what were your favourite moments of the game, individual and team?
All right, back at the game. Generally, I loved the way that the boys were getting around each other. That for me was huge. On an individual front, Laddam's outside check goal was really, really grand.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Basically was a good amount of pressure on our defensive half. Pulled it through the middle. I think Bell had to put a bit of a contest, get it to the ground. Ronk grabbed it, kicked it towards Logan, who was by himself in the forward. It just absolutely shanks off Logan's shins. He doesn't get down quick enough, and so they start to bounce back. But we have all this pressure down the wing. They've got no options to get out. We return the ball. It goes through Rampy, Blakey, Juzzy, before it then lands on Rowbottom's foot to have a kick out to forwards, where there's Laddams kind of one-on-one with another player. I've forgotten who the other player was. But basically hits over the top of Laddams. I personally think he had a bit of a hand in like a bit of a chop in the hands, but whatever. Laddams stays on his feet, bolts towards where the ball is. Someone's kind of grabbed. I've forgotten who that is. I think it's Crisp or something. He's gotten the ball. Laddams has gone in there and just dead set high tackled him, but that's kind of a make-up call for what happened on the other side with Ryan. I think we should accept this. Gets the ball scrounged on the ground. The loose ball, Bell comes in at full pace, just puts himself onto the ball. Logan grabs off the ground, palms it over to Laddams, and Laddams has a nice outside check kick to score his first for the Swannies. In terms of a team event that I really liked, just the way that the team got around him, I thought was super special. They really had that moment where this is a team and a bunch of young players that do believe everything that they've said in the media as they're signing their extensions. They all know that this is the team that's designed for growth for the next 5 years. And you can tell that they're all excited. The way they got around Laddams was just superb, really, really inspiring. I think the first ones around him, you had Juzzy, Haywood, Rampy, and then Parker. No, that's not right. It was Haywood, McLean, and Bell, Logan, and Rowbottom. All of these young kids, all of them under the age of 25, just getting around their ruckman, who's going to be their number one ruckman for quite some time. So I love that. I just thought that was very endearing of the entire team.
Yeah, no, it was an awesome moment, mate. And, first goal for your new club is special. And I think the club, I think the rest of the team know that he's going to be a pretty important cog going forward. So, no, it was good to see. Mate, for me, Braden Campbell did a little spin and weave out of contact about halfway through the first quarter, and my jaw hit the ground. I just thought it was a classy little move. And I thought, yeah, okay, he probably had a quieter game than he did against the Roos last week, but he just keeps growing in confidence. We know what he can do with that left peg, but when he starts to string it together, it's just gonna be awesome. Otherwise, Juzzy in the second quarter, I don't know if you saw, but on the broadcast, you can kind of see he's asking someone near him and a teammate near him, don't know who it was. He was kind of like, should I have a shot at this? And obviously, I don't know if he waited for the answer, but went back and pretty much started to line up. And then he absolutely shanks it. It hits his shin. It's a clanger. I think it might have even hit the person in front of him. But the point is, a few minutes later, he works hard and gets in position, takes an inside 50 mark, and then nails a kick from an extremely tight angle, which I think was one of the best goals of the game. And you just see in proper Juzzy fashion, he sort of just goes, "Oof, that was pretty hot." And I have to agree, that was awesome. Otherwise, for the teammate, McLean's second goal. Look, the players involved, it went end to end. So it was basically Campbell kicks to Tommy McCartan, kicks to Laddams, handballs to Goulden, kicks to Rowie. Rowie goes long to McLean, and he just basically plucks it. He's not going to give this one up. He's making amends for that terrible fumble that he did in that play earlier. But look, it was awesome. It just ripped him up. Just from it was basically, I think it was a kick in from an out and a full, maybe Kennedy or something. But yeah, just unbelievable end-to-end stuff. Otherwise, Logan's first goal, Heaney breaks out of the contest, bounces, kicks into space perfectly for Logan. He runs onto it, just catches it. It's a dream. And he just loads up. And as Jules would say, the jumbo jet took off. It was a delectable long bomb. Wowzers. His kicking action is like awesome anyway, but that just on the fly, I think it was like 52 meters, sailed through, hit the boundary fence. So it was probably like could have been a 58 meter, 60 meter kick.
That was a smooth action for him to kick that too. That
Totally.
was on the run, on like half a foot off away, like kind of a bit off balance, and he roosted that ball. That was lovely. That on top of that, it was the celebration on the sidelines that got me as well. That one was Haywood, Juzzy, and Rampy on the sidelines, just screaming and just hollering from just watching their young player being at home, just roosting a ball in this fantastic goal. Like, you love it. You love to see it. It's just a young team with great players that enjoy playing at the moment.
Well, that's it. I mean, the other thing is that, until recently, when he extended for, was it 2 years, I think?
Yeah.
So it was, obviously I think the WA clubs had been circling, probably less so Freo, but certainly the Eagles, who, Kennedy's in the twilight of, Josh P. Kennedy is in the twilight of his years. So, I think they probably would have come pretty hard at him. So the fact that he extended with the Swans and, he's playing in front of his home crowd, he's playing pretty well, in particular in that first half. But yeah, no, it was unreal. It was really cool to see. And yeah, Jumbo Jet took off.
Jumbo Jets.
All right, mate. Next up is the A-Bob medal, which is our equivalent of the Bob Skilton medal. The Bevies' best bloods this week in 3-2-1 points order were Millsy, Laddams, and Goulden. Mate, kick us off.
Alrighty, Millsy. What can we say? This is a player who has been touted as being one of the better ones in the competition for his entire career. And he just seems to have found another gear up. We talked about the 7th gear in the Mazda 6. He's on Gear 8. Does that even exist?
Are
Is
we
that
allowed?
possible?
So I think you said Mazda 6 last week, which
Yes.
upon reflection, that's the sponsor of the Ruse. If we're going to be talking cars, we better be talking VW, mate.
You're right.
T-Cross or Tiguan or how many other VWs do you know?
I don't even know. I don't know. I'm assuming Tiguan. The Golf. Let's stick to a Golf. I think we're safe there. So the Golf probably only has 3 gears anyway. I don't know. I've never driven one. I'm just going to take this assumption. So, hey, 4th gear, 5th gear in the old VW Golf. Cracking game. He's been a great player for such a long time. He's found another gear. He's taken on the captaincy and he's playing like the captain. He's taking it on himself. He's everywhere around the ground. He's making sure that he's willing his team for pressure acts, getting tackles, getting involved everywhere, good touches, being in support. I just can't say enough about his game, really. It's been a really, really fantastic effort from the very beginning. And he just, week in, week out, stays consistent, which the great players do. So, yeah, love to see it.
Unreal, mate. Like game high 28 disposals, game high 17 contested possessions, game high 14 ground ball gets, 8 inside 50s, which was second highest for Sydney. He's just looking in really good nick, and obviously with Parker and Heaney rolling forward, still coming in the mid, but predominantly forward to get our goals, and Joey being managed on the bench, Mills stood up again. He's our main man in the middle. And he just makes it look. And the other thing I love about his game, it's a little bit Paul Kelly. Whenever there's a bit of a scuffle,
I was just about to say this.
Always there, sticking up for our guys.
Yep.
And he's just like, you can tell he gets under the skin of opposition players. And I think that as Swans fans, we love him, but I have this sneaking suspicion that most other fans from other footy clubs don't like him. And they can think that they can feel that if they want. It's their, it's their life that they're wasting. But so I love that he's a Sydney boy. I love that he's a Swan, and I love the way he goes about it. And fingers crossed, he's rolling on. They're managing that Achilles. Doesn't look like he's being hampered at all, but it was weird after, I think it was last week or the week before, he pulled up for it with a bit of tightness. But yeah, he looked in sensational form in the middle, didn't he?
Yeah, and I think the moment you're talking about where he just kind of stood up for his players, I think Ollie Florent was having a bit of a wrestle on the wing somewhere with someone, and I think Juzzy got involved, and Juzzy's not the biggest bloke ever. He's
typical Juzzy though. I'll get in here.
Juzzy's inside. Yeah. I think Blakey got a bit in there, and Millsy just came in, started throwing his weight around, just shut him up, said a couple of things, and it just calmed. And that's what you want to see. You want to see your captain in the middle of that, just sorting it out, protecting his players.
Yeah, he got the guns out. And there's a picture of him. I think he was holding someone down. It's obviously not a football act, but yeah, it looked. I think it was Nat. Is it Nash? That guy? He's got considerably smaller arms. It looked like a pro wrestler versus like a cyclist. Yeah. But look,
I'm
awesome.
a cyclist, by the way. But.
Yeah, but you're also a pro wrestler at heart, mate. All right, mate. Let's get on to the next one. Laddie boy, Laddam. So have we got a nickname for this bloke yet? I think some people are calling him Ladders, Laddie boy. What are we going to roll with? We don't know yet.
I like Ladders. That's pretty sweet.
Ladders. He's tall.
Yeah.
Climb that ladder.
Climb that ladder. Hey, look, he wasn't up against Nick Nat this week, who's arguably the most athletic and dynamic ruckman in the game in the modern time. So, but he was getting around it. So one part about his game, I think we said in the last week, was that he looked gassed when he was getting around. And he looked like he was really laboring to get into position. It wasn't always around it. When he was around it, it kind of looked like he was kind of flopping a bit when he was getting tackled, or when he was putting a tackle on, he kind of fell to the side too quickly rather than keeping his feet. But this week, for sure, really on his feet. Ground ball gets were really tidy. Getting in there for the contest, getting an arm free and moving it out to the mids as well. So that was a part of the game that I hadn't seen in the last couple of weeks, and something they really put together really nicely this week. So yeah, look, this week really turned it on. Like, again, granted, not against the number one ruckman that they had, and other weeks are going to be harder than others, but look, he's played up against Goldie last week, and was it last week? And
Yep.
just absolutely dominated, like on the numbers. The eye test told us something different, but this week the eye test told us something that he is very, very special, and the numbers look great, and it was getting around it all, and even kicked the goal while I was at it. So
Yep.
can't say enough. Really, really good to see him.
Here are the numbers, mate. 24 disposals equal fourth for Sydney. 25 hitouts from 56 ruck contests, 4 to advantage, which was he shared with Bailey Williams. So didn't really have an advantage there, but he had 5 clearances, I think was telling, 4 marks, 1 goal, 7 score involvement. So again, equal fourth high for Sydney. So, I mean, they're kind of midfielder numbers. Obviously take out the hitouts and the ruck contests, but otherwise, he's playing a little bit like Hickey there. He's is another midfielder, which is what all the really good modern ruckmen are, apart from Nick Nat, who sort of centers his game around that tap king or that tap work. But I just think he showed a glimpse into what he's going to be able to do for the Swans going forward, and probably why we went so hard for him as we did last year. Obviously, another preseason, avoiding some of those pubs in Surrey Hills, Jules, and. Look, he's going to get better and better. I think, we all know ruckmen get better the older they are. And he's 24, this bloke?
25, 24, 25? Yeah.
24, 25. So, there's going to be ups and downs. He's still learning, he's still gelling, but I thought it was a pretty good performance from, a player. It's his second game, so second game for the club. So I was pretty happy with it, mate.
Yep, totally.
All right, on to Goulden. Just while we're at it, don't you hate the commentators that call him Golden?
It's not the commentators; it's their accent. It's a Melbourne
No, it's
thing.
not.
It is
Melbourne. They don't have ul; they've got al.
No, like that's they say Melbourne, not Melbourne, and they say Golden, not gold. Not
I
Golden.
just think they're dumb.
Golden.
I just think they're idiots.
No, I genuinely think it's the accent. There's a minor accent.
Please, someone tell us that it's a whole state of Victoria thing, rather than Brian Taylor.
No, let's not talk about BT too much on this one. I want to enjoy myself, but the
connection to the robot. I'm sorry, I take it back.
Yeah, that's it. Anyway, Goulden for everyone, including our friends down there in Victoria. I'm going to play the part of Steve-O, who, if no one knows, and if you haven't been listening to the podcast for too long, is an absolute fanboy for Goulden and has been since the day he even existed. I suspect that Steve-O is probably just in absolute bliss, sitting around somewhere with, a shrine of Goulden in his house back there in Finland that he, sets up things to and prays in front of every single time, and for good reason. And Steve-O continued doing exactly that, please. He is a special, special talent. He's got skill sets that are just different to other players' skill sets. He's not huge, but he's got some leg speed. He's got a great leg on him, but he's also got the smarts. So he knows exactly where to be. He knows exactly where the play is moving to. And that's what his game is all about. He seems to find himself in more space than he should. And he's just kind of roaming around, just collecting possessions as he did this week, and kind of like that free man, which has been very tidy. So, man, one thing that I really liked about his game this week, I noticed it, maybe I've missed it in other weeks, but for sure I saw it this week, was he holds back that possession. So rather than just grabbing it and just punching it away, or the first opportunity to see someone free, just punts it to him or handballs it out to him, he holds on to it for that extra couple of seconds to make sure he draws in a man. So he knows he's got very good spatial awareness of where the players are, where his players are, and to make sure that they have enough free space to go do something. So, yeah, Steve-O, keep praying, mate. Keep that shrine up and going. It's working.
I wonder if he actually does have this little shrine. But 27 disposals, second highest in the game, and Sydney after Mills. 10 intercept possessions. I think it was 19. We scored 19 points alone off those 10 intercept possessions. Equal first for Sydney. 10 score involvements, equal second game high with Heaney. Second, 2 score launches, second for Sydney. 18 uncontested possessions, second for Sydney. So after a comparatively quiet week against the Roos, I think he stood up. He was energetic around the ball. He he probably should have kicked a couple of goals. And I think, no one's harder on Goulden than himself. You can see it. He's a little bit like Heaney in that regard. But yeah, I just thought he just played it was a really well-rounded game this week. And I think that's how he got in that 1 point there in the Bevies ABOB medal. But we do have a bunch of honourable mentions, as is always the case when we win. We can't stop talking about our players and how well they played. So why don't you tell us a bit about your honourable mentions this week, mate?
I've got a few, but I will leave. Look, Bell and Ronk playing the small forward role and that pressure rack role. We're going to talk about them in a little bit. So they were fantastic. I want to make mention, and we'll talk about their role in a topic down the line. Heaney had a quiet night, in quotes, by his own comparison. From memory, 16 touches, 6 tackles, highest of the game. But just consistent and getting around the game, getting around the forwards, making sure that he's available. Some of those marks, come on,
they were
not
good.
Many players can do that.
Yep.
Very, very few have that capacity to do that. Outrunning his opponents, outworking everyone. He was a bit frustrated himself, I noticed, kind of missed a couple of gettable goals by his own standards. But hey, look, he still is up there. And I've noticed now that the media is starting to pick it up. They're finally starting to work out that this guy is at least one of the best in the game. I've seen a few things rolling around. I saw that he was second best player in the game at the moment, right behind Petrarca. I saw another pundit mentioning he was in the top 5. So he's getting around it now. Looks like the pundits are all starting to work it out that he is elite. The other one that I haven't got in the paper here, but it's something that I wanted to address, would be Haywood. He's playing up towards more of that half forward role, being more of that extra support through the mids as they roll back, and kind of giving some of that extra support to our defenders as we're trying to work out a better way of getting out of our half. And he's playing very nicely. He's getting a few goals by himself. One really nice snap goal with bugger all angle. He got that one.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, that was super tidy. But he's also getting some very, very tidy field kicks, some good contests, and getting around it. So yeah, I just want to make mention of him quickly.
Going into the Eagles game, Haywood. And this is one of the AFL app stats. Is pretty nerdy here. He's converted 34% of his pressure acts into turnovers, from which Sydney have scored 31 points. Both of these figures lead all players in the AFL in each category over the first 4 rounds. So be interesting to see how he went at the end of the Eagles game. But that shows you he brings the pressure, forces a turnover, and then more often than not, we score from it. So what a player to have in the team. Very handy. My guys were Warner and Rowie. I'll start with Warner, actually. Warner's 12 handball receives and 3 centre clearances were both game highs. I mean, how often do we see him just streaming through the middle? It was awesome. He kicked that goal, sticks it up to Eagles fans. Just really loved his game tonight, or on the night. Rowie was he had another consistent performance in lieu of obviously Kennedy. He just sort of played that second fiddle to Millsy. He was here, there, and everywhere. Some of his kicking, again, could do with a bit of a tweak, but it's not really what he's there for. It's more his contest work, his defensive half pressure. And I just thought he did pretty well. Otherwise, the Big Macs, as the commentators called out, Hayden and Logan, I thought they combined well. I thought they competed well with each other and against each other. You can kind of tell that they don't want to give each other a bit of a hand when it comes to getting goals, because I think they both know that, when Buddy comes in, depending on how they're going, they're the ones that could drop out if it's not going to be Reed. But yeah, I thought they absolutely tore up that first quarter. Obviously in Buddy's absence, showed that we really have solid and exciting young depth ready to go. Right, and coaches' votes, mate. So we got it pretty right. Cal Mills got 10, Laddams got 7, Parker got 5, McInerney got 5. Juzzy, sorry, I feel weird when I say McInerney now. The Heat got 2, and Jakey Lloyd got 1. Just doing Jake Lloyd things down the back there. That turnover was a bit disappointing, wasn't it? That one that led to a goal. That was rough. But, look, you're bound to make a mistake. It's just you don't want to see it from a kick in there.
Not like that either. You've got all the time in the world to do something with it. But hey.
Yeah. All right, mate. We're going to have a bit of a general chat now in hot topics. How we pulled up after the match, any MRL and any MRO, what changes will we make, and we'll touch on some of the VFL players who are looking in form. So, no listed injuries against the Eagles, so far as we know. In terms of recovering players, Papley's been ruled out again against the Hawks on this Monday coming. Horse also confirmed that Wicks is a best 6 forward. So, as we've touched on this week and last week, the small forward logjam will continue.
Yeah, I mean, on that then, so I put up a post on Twitter to ask the question when Papley comes back in, who goes out? And the word overwhelmingly is Bell. And that surprises me. There's no opportunity in Twitter to really kind of, well, there is to show your workings, but there's no one's really doing so. They're kind of like doing what the eye is telling them. And I don't understand why Bell would be an easy out. Do you have any strong feelings when Papley comes in? The Bell spot, the wrong spot, one of them have to go. When Wicks comes back in, one of those got to go, or Wicks doesn't come in. How do you see it all coming together?
Yeah, look, I think it's I think heading into this season, Bell had pole position, but I think it was Buckley who commented, like he's working really hard. He's got a great tank. Obviously, some of his foot skills could be better, but I think it's his finishing that can let him down. I think one of the gettable goals that I saw, it was 1 or 2 from Bell. But that, other players also missed goals. That's the point. Like this guy got panned after that elimination final last year, and wrongly so. And I don't think there is, but I hope that there's not like casual racism happening here with Swans fans. But I see Bell as ahead of Ronk. But if Ronk continues to play the way he has, then there's a legitimate selection conundrum there. But Ronk, I think, could have had 3 goals in that first quarter. He kicked 1, 2. He is bringing a lot of pressure. He's getting back to that level that we know he can play at 2018, just burst on the scenes, just kicking goals left, right, and center, right? So, and then after that, sort of was injured, and then there was both Bell and Wicks came along, and Wicks really brought the pressure. So, look, it's a good problem to have. I think we say this every week, but if I had to choose right now, I mean, I don't think Papley's coming in against the Hawks, but the following week, who have we got the following week? Is it? Is it another away game? We're coming back home. Anyway, if he's ready for that game, then yeah, something's got to give, right? So I guess it might depend on what happens this week against the Hawks, but I don't know if I would see Wicks come in ahead of the Ronk and the Bell that have been playing the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, that's where I see it. I think you could split the Bell Ronk position either way. I'd be more than happy for people to make suggestions one way or the other. Yeah. The only thing that I'm surprised about is just how strongly they feel that it's a Bell that needs to step out. Like he's been a part of a winning team, this winning team, for quite some time. I think we mentioned last year when he hit the post at the elimination final that 2 players prior to him, including Buddy, had done the same thing. But he's always up
7 behinds that quarter, Chriso. He was one of 7 players who. Oh, there might have been a rush behind in there, but there was a bunch of players that kicked behinds. He wasn't the only one.
And it's just, I'm surprised. I genuinely am, because he is. If you watch the game and just keep your eye on Bell, he is amongst it. He's always there for a tackle. He's trying to get hands on someone. Some of the tackles he doesn't entirely stick, and I think that's the only failure on his point. As I was mentioning before with Laddams, Bell also kind of flops to the ground a little bit too quickly. But I think that's just the style of tackle. He's trying to get them down, trying to finish off the tackle, that old saying. So, but I'm surprised. I genuinely am surprised that there's not a whole lot more love for the way that Bell's playing. Hey, when Ronk comes in, and kicks that absolute screaming goal against the Bulldogs to give us some kind of life. And then he comes in and plays this great game against North and plays, again, a very good game against West Coast, and also play that support role. As I was mentioning before, small forward coming down the wing to play that support that sometimes Buddy goes ahead by his own standard and does. Those small forwards are doing that. So Bell and Ronk were kind of taking turns to make that support up. So they're both playing this really grand role. And I'm starting to think to myself, like, why don't we just keep both of them? They're clearly working well together. We're putting so much pressure on the ball. Like the Logan spot's the only thing that I think should kind of slide in and out. But when Papley comes in, one of them has to go. I don't know who it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, Buddy may come back before Papley. It feels like Papley might be. They're really nursing that hammy. Obviously, he's such an important player, as is Buddy. But a finger is probably less of a risk, to serious injury, unlike a deep hamstring. But so we should also probably talk about Reed. I thought Reed had a good game. I know a lot of Swans fans were really just didn't like his game against the Eagles, and I didn't see it. I just thought he played his role really well. Like, yeah, I mean, you kind of wish that he could take more marks, but if he's bringing it to ground for the players we're talking about and we're kicking goals, then what does it matter,
That's just doing his job. That's kind of his thing. And as I mentioned earlier, I really think that Reed and McLean just weren't playing well together. They were getting each other's way. There was a couple of moments where Reed was in front, had an opportunity at the ball. He's one of the best contest markers. Definitely one of the best we've got, if not the best. And he just didn't have a proper run at it because he had too many bodies on him, because McLean was kind of dragging his man over as well. So yeah, I'd like to see him stay. I think he's got a good role to play in that forward half. And look, when Wicks comes in, I'm going to go back to this because I'm obsessed with this right now. Sorry, Noddy.
You're right, mate.
When Wicks comes in, do Bell or Ronke leave to make room for him in your eyes?
Yeah, it's one of those two guys. I think. I think. Well, it'll depend on the timing of Buddy. As like if they come back in at the same time, then I think it will probably be Bell or Ronk and Reed, or potentially Logan if he hasn't kicked a couple more goals in the next couple of rounds. So, yeah, I don't know, mate. It's going to be one to watch. The other one that okay, let's have a look. So VFL, okay, we played Northern Bull Ants. We lost 85 to 104. Joel Amadi and Matty Roberts both go down with a concussion in the second quarter, so they're out for 12 days. Sheldrick hasn't played for the past 2 rounds. I was wondering what happened today. I saw the club announce that there is something wrong with his knee, seeing a specialist, so that doesn't sound particularly good. Otherwise, there's not that many people other than the ones that are already sort of on the fringe, the emergency 4 or 5 or 6 players. Ryan Clark, 37 disposals. Louis Taylor, 26. Gould, 25. Stevens, 21. Barry O'Connor scored 2 goals. That's interesting. I've been wanting him to maybe, see what he can produce, and obviously we've been playing him in the defense, but I think his position in Gaelic was mid forward. So I wonder if he's just naturally better up front, but it'll be interesting to see what they do there. But Wick scored 1 goal and had 2 tackles in that game. So not the best stats you would think, to say, hey, get me back in the team. But, if Horses said Wicks is the best 6 forward, then who are we to argue, really? So, look, it's going to be interesting either way. The Hawks, go for it.
On pure numbers, I think Bell only had how many tackles? Sorry, I'm looking this up on the fly. Sorry, I should have been a bit more organized. But Ronk's got the 4 tackles and Bell's got the single 1. That is not right. Like, I saw him make tackles way more than that. So, or at least get amongst it, and maybe didn't stick the tackle, but forced the ball on the ground or forced them to have to get rid of it or did something with it. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't see Wicks coming back in for those 2. I think those 2 were playing a better game than Wicks was when he left. So, hey, let's see, watch this space. I guess really, there's not much we can do other than
In
take Horse's word.
Yeah, in Bell's, I guess another point in Bell's defense is that he had the most pressure acts from a Swan.
There you go.
So, admittedly, it was the fourth highest. There were 3 Eagles ahead of him, but he had 21 pressure acts. The next Swan was Luke Parker on, I think it was about 16 or so. So there you go. He's doing what you're saying, what the eye test. You see him working hard around the ground. He's doing it. He's putting it up in numbers. So it's a good look. It's a good problem. We just say it every week. These guys are actually they're making the most of their opportunity when they're there. They're leaving it all out on the field. So I think it's great. Yeah. Okay, mate. What do you think? We're going to talk about dissent. We're going to. Oh, okay. Before that, we'll just. How funny was that sign? I don't know. I can't remember when it was. I think it was when Laddams had the ball for either a shot at goal or just in general play. You could see in the background that a West Coast fan was holding a sign that said "Sampi was held."
Yeah.
Now, most Swans fans will know this, but this is a reference to the 2005 grand final where Leo Barry took that last second mark to stop the Eagles from beating us. And our mate Ty Kennelly, who had admitted himself that he was holding and blocking and doing everything he could to Sampi. And he said that to us when we chatted with him. But I just thought it was funny. There was the Eagles fans are still holding a little bit of a grudge there.
Yeah, I mean, and look, rightly so. They're claiming Sampi was held straight from the horse's mouth. Ty's admitted, yes, he was. So, yeah, it's just, are we just putting up facts these days? Is that what we do? So,
yeah, let's get a bit of cardboard and put 20 free kicks to 8 while we're at it.
I think the O'Reilly rabble might be holding up that sign the next time we play the Dogs at home.
That's a bit of that was a quote from Steve-O, so we'll give him some credit there. All right, dissent. You were chatting to me about this beforehand. Is there a definition for it yet? Because it seems like some umpires will see an arm move and then they're like 50 meters, and others will basically be screamed at and there's no 50. So how is that consistent?
Yeah, look, it's for anyone who hasn't paid attention, I'd be surprised, but the Hawks Cats game, one of the Hawks had a free paid against him for whatever reason. I don't know exactly what for, maybe holding or high or something. And he puts his hands by his side, looking at the referee in a sense of like, what was that for? And immediately got paid 50 meters.
I think it was Harris Andrews, Lions against the Pies.
Oh,
but it did happen in the Hawks game as well. It was Gunston and Mitchell.
There you go. So it's a surprise, and for me, as we all know, absolutely every commentator and every color analyst in all the Fox and Seven and everyone else, they're all ex-players, and every one of them was perplexed and frustrated and angry. None more so than Revolt, who I personally think is an absolute cracker of a player and person, and I really enjoy listening to him. And he really was not happy.
You're talking about Nick, or you're talking about Nick? Yeah. Okay.
Nick Revolt. He just was not happy about it. We gave very good reasons why he wasn't. And today, Brad Scott, who's now running all this operational business for the AFL from this year onwards, he came out and said exactly these words. With the inconsistency on the weekend where we paid some and we didn't pay others, I get that some players think, what's the level of dissent we're allowed to produce? And the answer to that is none. So what he's referencing there is, if any player from this week onwards puts their hands by their sides in a form of what was that for, in any shape or way, that's a 50-meter penalty or free kick off the bat. Now, I'm not one to get too riled up about some of these things. I kind of take a bit of a backseat. I personally think that the AFL is a very hard game to referee and umpire, and I think we do a pretty good job of it for the most part, considering how hard it is. But this is just a little bit too far. What's your takeaway there, Noddy? What do you think straight off the bat?
Look, I think it's a little bit like the MRO nonsense from the past couple of years. You just need to be consistent. If they're saying dissent equals any kind of body movement, any kind of facial expression change, any kind of emoting toward the referee, then it's just got to be every single, because we see it a lot every game, every round. You think that bloke has just yelled at the umpire. Why is he not getting dissent? And they like, play on. Okay, you can get away with it that game. But then, for example, as we're saying, Harris Andrews or Mitchell and Gunston can look at the big screen and ask a question and say that's. But then if that particular umpire is switched on or a little bit sensitive, perhaps, is like, that's dissent. And any questioning of my decision is dissent. My question to you is like, what is the definition of dissent? There must be a list of things that they've said, all of these actions equal dissent, so don't do them. But I haven't really seen it so clearly yet.
Yeah, and I don't think there is a very clear example. I think this was the opportunity for the AFL to kind of go, right, this is the line in the sand, and this is where we're going to draw it. And they've just wiped that out and said, nope, no line in the sand. If at any moment we think is dissent, it is dissent. It's a victim thing. So, and as you mentioned, I think it's quite clever of you to say so. Like, it really comes down referee by referee. Some of the ones with like the ones who've been around, who know the game a bit better, probably know the players. They've got thick skins and they can probably get yelled at and they'll be like, well, whatever, this is the game. These kids are just angry. Brad Scott specifically said today in the press conference, referencing those thicker skinned referees and umpires, to just call it. If that's the case, then they need to start calling it as well, to be consistent around the ground. One thing I do like is consistency, as you're mentioning.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of 50s next week, that's for sure.
There's going to be a lot of 50s. I think there's a lot to go on there.
Totally. Did you want to shout out to Zane Redden White?
Yeah, I did. So he's got himself, he just mentioned that our man Zane Redden White in Twitter and Instagram, make sure you check him out. He's mentioning that the tours are under the pump on the quiet. So Amadi he's got himself concussion tests. McAndrews has a hamstring. Hickey and Naismith both have banged up knees. Sinclair was not named. I think you had some extra. Was it a hammy thing with him?
That was Stretch McAndrew, as far as I know. I'm not quite sure what's going on with Cal, but
Cal Sinclair, we don't know what's going on there. But so Zane's kind of picked it out and saying, like, we've got some problems with the backup tools at the moment, and it's something that we kind of need to keep an eye on, because we only need a Reed to get injured, which is probably going to happen. Touch wood, hope it doesn't. But hey, history is anything. We're down at all, and then we're going to be struggling to keep that up. So something to consider as well.
I guess we do have Lewis Melican, who can potentially come into the back line if we need to shift. Like, worst case, we need to take either Paddy or Tommy, because we know that they can both play forward, right? So we've got a couple of solid plan Bs, and obviously Amadi going out, he's really sort of that player that puts the other players on notice, because he's good enough to come back in, but with him out for 12 days. Yeah, McAndrew, he's still a work in progress. I think he's going to be a cracker in time, but Hickey is still a while away with his medial, and obviously, I think I read Naismith is running again, which is quicker than I thought. But I don't know if it's in he'll be running and then start training again anytime soon. But I think the fact he's running again is real positive. But mate, we haven't spoken about Joey as a medical sub. There's been a lot of chat on groups this week. We probably shouldn't talk about it very much, but what do you think about Joey? Do you think he's good enough to be in the 22?
Yes, no doubt.
Well, yeah, clearly. So why they're saying he's managed? It's a strategic thing, and maybe it was, but we all know he hasn't been playing where we know he plays best for the first 4 rounds of the season. So I think a lot of Swans fans are just a bit confused about what's going on with Joey.
Well, look, I think the first 3 games he played predominantly on the wing, and then kind of played halfback, looked
Defense,
shocking. Jumped on the wing, looked a whole lot better, and then against North kind of rolled in to the centres and then rolled out to the wing. And that seemed to be this kind of nice position for him. I am fine with it. I think everyone just needs to take a cup of tea, chamomile potentially, and just kind of take it down a notch. I think it's not a problem. I think it generally is managed. We want to keep his body good. We want him firing at the end of the season, not at the beginning.
That's it, mate. He'll be back. He'll play a very important role for us throughout the year. All right, mate, one last thing. Hawks in Tassie. So earlier, I forgot who were playing the rounds after that. We're playing the Lions and the Suns in consecutive games at the SCG after the Hawks. But first and foremost, we've got the Hawks on Anzac Day, on Monday, Anzac Monday, or just Anzac Day as it's called. Thoughts, mate? Tip, if you want to go there, best, worst memory against Hawks?
Best worst memory, there's the obvious ones, but the one that kind of comes to mind was, because it's been in the news lately, Cyril Rioli taking a kick from 50 out with a few seconds to go, nails the kick to win the game against us at the SCG from memory, a Thursday night. Don't quote me. That was a bit sad because, I really enjoyed that game and he took it away from me. So that's him. He's a star player. What can you do? Yeah,
totally, mate. Look, obviously, best is 2012 grand final, worst is 2014, bloody Hawks.
Mm-hmm.
But look, Horse has said that Hawthorn and Sydney right now are very similar, both young, having rebuilt, both with some good form. So it's going to be a really tough test. So looking forward to it. Obviously, I didn't get the tip right against the Eagles, so I think I'm going to sit this one out. But look, it should be a cracking game, and I'm loving the fact that all the Swans fans down in Tassie are going to be there, throwing their support behind the Bloods. So shout out to our Tassie brethren. All right, mate. Have you got anything else before we sign out?
Yeah, no, I don't. I guess if I was going to put a tip down against either one of those teams, I would not, because I don't see it being a clear win either way. I think it's going to be quite a tough game to be playing either way.
I'll put a tip down when I do the preview, and that'll be in a couple of days. It'll be a couple of days before we play. So I'll commit to a tip for the Facebook preview post. So check that out, Signets and Swanlings. All right, mate. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode. On behalf of the Bevy, I'd like to say thank you very much for listening in. Tune in again on Thursday night for our team announcement video and preview post. Otherwise, make sure to keep following us on Instagram and Facebook at A Bevy of Bloods for updates and announcements. Until then, up the Bloods, and can you, Swannies?